Picture this, you've just done your makeup on your more mature skin and you're thinking it looks pretty good. You probably watched one of my tutorials when you did it and we did it together and I bet it looks fantastic. So you want this makeup look to last all day. So what do? You reach for a setting powder? No, you don't. You reach for a setting spray, but with so many of them on the market, which is the right one? We're gonna find out in today's Friday Face Off. If we haven't met before, hi, I'm Jody, I'm 56, and every week we do a Friday Face Off where we compare two products, not only how they apply, but we take a look at the ingredient list and an 8-hour wear test. And today we are testing the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray. This is my holy grail up against Morphe's Lifeproof 16-hour setting spray. So you know we're gonna get into the ingredients and see, are these really meant for more mature skin and do they lock in my makeup look all day long? All right, first we have to break down the price point. I have two different size bottles, so that's not gonna help from a visual perspective, but this 1.3 ounce spray can of Morphe sells for $15. Morphe's 2.8 ounce size sells for $20. Charlotte Tilbury's 3.3 ounce size, which is the one I have here. So there's quite a price difference between these two. They're both cruelty-free and neither one of them contain alcohol, which for those of us with more mature skin, that is a big plus. I get asked this question a lot, do I really need a setting spray? And my answer is, if you like a soft glam look every day like I do, then yes, you do want to use a setting spray. The ingredients in these, we're gonna find out if they are really humidity proof. We're gonna also see how they sit and feel on the skin. Do they feel stiff? How does it feel drying? And then again, it is 90 degrees outside, so we're gonna see how these hold up at about the 8-hour mark. One thing I do want to try, because I do have my makeup on, but we're gonna add a little bit more blush, almost clownish looking, because I do want to have a good visual to see how well these hold the vibrancy of my makeup. And I picked up a new blush yesterday, you guys. This was in Lucky Love. This was by NARS. I don't know if you guys have seen these. It got me. It was in the store under the pretty lights, all the, everything's sparkly. And I thought, oh, that looks like a highlighter and a blush in one. Staying away from powders like I like to with more mature skin, this felt very much like a cream. Again, this is the shade Lucky Love. And we're just gonna, yeah, it feels very creamy. It doesn't feel like a powder. Look how pretty that is. So we're just gonna add a little bit of blush. Oh, that has some highlighter, and I know that's what got me at the store. Why do things look so much better in the store and then you get it home and you're like, oh, I should have thought that through a little better? It shows my pores. I have pores. It shows them. Yeah. Okay, well, I wanted to look more clownish today, but I feel more like the Tin Man with this highlighting blush. This will be in my mistakes for this month's purchases. All right, well, you guys get the gist. I wanted to see how these two setting sprays, I'm almost speechless right now because that is so highlighted. I wanted to see how these two setting sprays lock in the color of the blush. So let's get into both of these. As I said, they are both cruelty-free. I'm trying to think about how we want to do this. With setting spray, you want to spray it like hairspray about 8 to 10 inches away from your face and spray it in an X and then a T. That helps ensure that you got every part of your face. And I do like a setting spray because it helps almost blend, softly blur all of your makeup together. It just helps everything look a little bit more muted, but in the best kind of a way, if that makes sense. These two setting sprays are actually more similar in the ingredients than they are different. Both rely on the same film forming technology to make the product last longer. Charlotte Tilbury adds a few more skincare focused ingredients. When it comes to the Morphe, there's a slight fragrance. Let me see. There's a slight fragrance with Charlotte Tilbury, but this smells more like a fresh smell, where this one smells a little bit like a hairspray smell, but not in a bad way, but it is a slightly more fragrant. Not a lot, but it does have a little bit more fragrance. And they both offer glycerin for added hydration. So we are just going to, let's just do this. First is Morphe. I feel like I just gave myself a shower. Can you see that? I'm gonna mess up my camera lens. That is a very fine mist. So I don't know that you need an X and a T. I think just a squiggly line down would be fine. Yeah, that's a very fine mist. It feels nice. It feels refreshing. I just feel like a lot came out because that's the difference. This is an aerosol. This is a pump. Okay, points for the pump because I can control the amount of product, I think, a little better than this aerosol. That's why I feel like I just gave myself a shower in setting spray. Now for the Charlotte Tilbury side. Yeah, oh, I just love it. Feels so refreshing on the face. They both do, but the slight scent of this one just feels like, I don't know, like I'm really rich and I've been out in the Bahamas on a yacht or something. It's just the nicest takeaway moment. It's like Calgon. Remember back in the day, the Calgon Take Me Away commercials? This scent with some soft mist on your face is like a Calgon Take Me Away moment of 2026. All right, so the application process is slightly different because we have an aerosol versus a pump. I don't love that on this Morphe one, but for a price point of about $10 difference, could you live with it? Yeah, it's just a learning curve. You'd have to learn how to work with it. In terms of how they feel, both feel fine. Neither one feels sticky or tacky. I don't feel like my face is gonna crack if I smile too much. We'll see if they lock in that highlighter. In a way, I kind of hope they don't because I have things I need to do today and I don't need my cheeks entering the room 10 feet before the rest of me, but that's where we are. All right, you guys, well, there is our setting spray. Setting spray is one of those parts of your makeup routine that I use every time I go outside with makeup on, and I usually go out with a look similar to this. Some people would call it a soft glam. To some people, this is full glam makeup. And then to other people, this is hardly any makeup at all. So it just depends on what you like in your finished daily look if you think you need a setting spray. But if you are somebody that has hot flashes, for example, or if you work where it's really humid, then you might think about a setting spray. If you're finding that your makeup gives some slip, if you get that peeling or the bunching that can sometimes happen, then you might want to lock in everything with the setting spray. You can also use what I call micro setting spray, and that is to use it just where you think you need it. So if you find that you don't need setting spray everywhere, you can always put a little bit on a brush. I like to do this with my concealer and tap in my concealer. You might find that you need a setting spray just maybe on your forehead, just down here. Maybe you wear glasses and you want to put a little bit of setting spray just where the frames hit your glasses. That's another great way to use this product. You don't have to go all over your face. And if you don't wear a full face of makeup, you may not need to. But if you wear concealer or a tinted moisturizer or a tinted sunscreen and you have glasses, the bridge of your nose with this will help lock in that makeup and where your frames are. So a lot of ways to use a setting spray. The question is, which one do you use? All right, you guys, it's been a little over 8 hours. All right, breaking down how these have performed over time. Hydration is a big deal for those of us with more mature skin. And as I stated earlier, both of these contain glycerin, so the hydration payout is pretty similar. Now, when it comes to skincare ingredients, and while I don't look for things like setting spray to give me my skincare, it is worth noting that Charlotte Tilbury does have a bit of an edge in the skincare category. It has aloe vera for soothing and calming the skin, green tea leaf extract, and radish root ferment for conditioning. Now, the Morphe does include lemon myrtle leaf extract. In terms of skincare, Charlotte Tilbury takes the lead. In terms of the finish, they both feel very lightweight. They're both flexible. They look natural. They didn't add a radiant shine or a matte finish, although you can get a matte finish in many setting sprays if that's the finish that you're looking for. These left a natural finish. Here's where I feel Charlotte Tilbury continues to dominate this space. When you look at the two side by side, the Charlotte Tilbury side just looks a little bit more refined and a little bit blurred. And for those of us over 50 that have textured skin, anything with a slight blurring effect, add to cart. The additional conditioning ingredients that the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray includes in their formula helps makeup settle into a smoother looking overall finish. Now, when it comes to sensitivity on the skin, they do both contain a slight fragrance. The biggest ingredient differences, Morphe focuses on long wear, lightweight, excellent hydration, and a simpler formula. The ingredients in the Charlotte Tilbury formula also focuses on long wear, but includes things like skin conditioning, smoother finish, antioxidants, and that ever so important blurring effect. So in my opinion, Charlotte Tilbury earns its premium price point here. Not because it uses radically different setting technology, but because it combines that technology with more sophisticated skin conditioning ingredients that help create a softer, more refined look. So if your priority is achieving the smoothest, most polished airbrush appearance, then Charlotte Tilbury for the win here. That does it for me today, you guys. If you love Friday face-offs as much as I love doing them for you, then be sure to check out this one where I test a new foundation by Makeup Forever, and the results surprised me. So you don't want to miss that if you're on the market for a new full coverage foundation. That was a bit of a spoiler alert. All right, you guys, I will see you in just a couple days. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.